Hello Sagittarius, Sagittarius Rising, and Sagittarius Moon people. This is your weekly astrological and card forecast for the week starting December 26th, 2016. It is the last week of the year, thank goodness. Now, quick reminder for you guys, remember your January monthly astrology horoscopes are up on the main channel page under a playlist of their very own, and there's also an hour and 45-minute long lecture I do on the astrology of 2017 in general, so you might want to check that out while you're doing your holiday driving. And of course, remember, January classes start up, online classes start up once again. Tarot tutorships begin on the 8th, and I've also got the Astrology Love webinar going on. And if you'd like to sign up for any of those, you can. You just gotta go to my website, integrativemysticism.com, and reserve your spot. So what's going on with your astrology this week? Well, speaking of spots, everyone's getting put on the spot this week. And a lot of that has to do between your 11th house of friendships with Jupiter, and your 5th house of love and romance with Uranus. And it looks to me like there's actually going to be a chance that a friend and a lover are going to need a chance to get to know each other better. And this is because, you know, you are putting them both on the spot. And you're not going to force them to be besties, but you may be needing to kind of force them to get along, find a way to get this to work. Because, you know, to be frank, it's not fair for a lover or a best friend to make you have to choose, or make you feel like you can't have both, in a lot of ways. And with Jupiter in your 11th house, you know, you are getting to be a lot more socially popular, and with Uranus in your 5th house, you are bonding with your partner in more creative and more interesting ways. But when they oppose to one another, what can often happen is that we will need to sort of find a way to either help our partners and our friends become more comfortable with one another, or find a way that everyone can be happy, you know, either spending time together or at least sharing time when it comes to you. And that's going to happen in the beginning of this week. Now the nice thing is everyone is going to be willing to do this. Everyone is going to be willing to do it, but at the same time, it's really about how long. Because I think somebody, I'm not sure if it's your partner or your friend, may not necessarily be aware that this is meant to be the new norm, not just for this week. Later on in the week, we've got Saturn in your sign, this planet of restrictions and boundaries, forming a tense square with Chiron, which is basically our emotional baggage. Some people call it the wounded healer. It's leftover business in your 4th house of home and family. And there may be a need to call out a relative on their behavior over the last X amount of months or years. And this may actually be somebody that you have been tiptoeing around, walking on eggshells around. You know, and we do that sometimes for relatives. If we feel like, you know, they need that extra support, it's not appropriate to bring this up. But something this week really sets you off, Sagittarius, and I think that maybe this reality check is good for them, but also it's good for you, because it's also going to challenge where you might accidentally be overindulging whatever's going on with this person. So what's going on with your cards this week? Well, for your spiritual advice, we do have the card of the Life Bringer. And this card always talks about allowing things to have a life of their own and supporting them when they have a life of their own. And again, teaching us a lesson that when it comes to, say, a career, or a relationship, or an academic plan, or any of those things, those all have lives of their own. Learn to treat them like living, breathing entities that need nourishment and encouragement for what they are, and not necessarily put the focus entirely on just the individuals involved. And this week we may be having to pay attention to that. An artistic project may develop a life of its own. A career path or a promotion may appear, but again, it's taken on a life of its own. And also learning to understand the character, or the character of a relationship that you have as a life of its own. If your relationship had a personality, what kind of person do you think it would be? I always like to think of that when I look at this card. Because it's like, well, yeah, what kind of person would that relationship be? Would they be a happy person? Would they be a successful person? Would they be somebody who's easy to get along with? Look at the things that have taken on a life of their own and ask that same question to yourself. Because this week, it'll be very helpful when learning how to make them exactly what we want them to be, or encourage them to stay doing as well as they are. For your Earth sector, when it comes to your work and finances, we do have the High Priestess inverted. And this card can say that when it comes to work and when it comes to money, be very careful about somebody who is trying to gloss over too many important details. Because the High Priestess inverted can show up often as somebody who's trying to act as some kind of advisor, maybe a hiring manager, or somebody who thinks they are somehow an expert when it comes to rules, regulations, and processes, when they really are not. Sometimes she can be the type of person who will tell you how to do a job and you're doing it completely wrong or it's inappropriate for the situation that we're supposed to be doing. This could also indicate a situation where a client or a customer may be lying, or not at least not telling the whole truth about whatever they're trying to get from you. And this could cause problems in the short term, and so we don't want to actually have to deal with that if we can avoid it. The High Priestess inverted is saying, don't assume that somebody knows what they're talking about or they have your best interest in mind, financially or professionally this week. That being said, everything else should be going just fine, so long as we don't, again, take on speculation that somebody posing as a mentor or posing as an open, honest client or customer is telling the whole truth. For your communications with air when it comes to your friends, your relatives, and the others in your life, we do have the King of Cups inverted. Now, this card can indicate, again, we already talked about confronting a relative. This might be that relative, or at least a friend who you might consider family. Because the King of Cups inverted can talk about where somebody is acting out of their insecurities in a way that is doing, potential harm, or at least hurting the feelings of you and yours, or even people that you share if you are related. And sometimes the King of Cups inverted, this person is doing it because, again, they are acting out. I'm not sure if this necessarily comes as a cry for help, but it definitely does show up where this is on purpose, and I feel like with the King of Cups inverted, we may need to actually have a sit-down, or at least do a welfare check on this person, I think. Because with the King of Cups inverted, sometimes this is not just a way to act out or share that they're not happy. Sometimes they do this to get their way, because again, they may be taking advantage of people taking it too easy on them. For your challenge this week with fire, we do have the Justice card upright. This card means that your challenge this week is to focus on fairness and what is fair. Okay, where have we been spoiling people versus neglecting people? Where should we not be accepting favoritism? Okay? And this might be a challenge. Sometimes it's nice to be promoted, sometimes it's nice to do it, but if we're not deserving and our coworker is deserving, the honorable thing to do is make that known. Don't let yourself be the I guess you could say the benefactor or the beneficiary of favoritism if you know that it's going to be bad karma. In fact, the Justice card upright, sometimes what can happen as well is we have to enforce fairness. Alright, we have to enforce fairness around a lot of us. And again, getting people to tell the truth and the open, honest truth. Because again, sometimes people, while they don't necessarily want to lie, sometimes people don't even remember what the truth really is when they get so emotionally wrapped up in something. And so we might not be getting all the information that they even know is important to share. For your emotions with water and your romantic life, we do have the Eight of Cups upright. A lot of you Sagittarius people may actually find love at a bit of a distance this week, and this may be temporary distance, this may be just maybe a 30-40 minute drive away. But the Eight of Cups does indicate a call for travel, or a call to consider travel. And the Eight of Cups can indicate somebody who has recently moved away. So you may be actually finding out that this new person, is still available, but again, we're going to have to commute to see each other. The Eight of Cups can also indicate, though, a lot of you walking away from a dating situation this week that has gone nowhere. This probably won't happen to those of you who are official, but those of you who feel like maybe it's run its course seeing this person for the last month or two, some of you may hang it up and answer a completely different call. Sometimes because the Eight of Cups never leaves without knowing where it's going to go next. For those of you who are currently coupled, you and your partner are going to be taking your leave of a commitment or maybe an undertaking that both of you have shared for quite some time. Some of you may actually be deciding it's time to move, or some of you are deciding it's time to move away socially from a friend or a relative that is proving to be very challenging to this relationship. This would also be a week where, with your encouragement, your partner may finally decide to make a big move of their own. If you've been encouraging them to maybe leave a job that's not good for them, or a team that's not good for them, or reconsider, if they're in school or they're in college or university, you may be encouraged to find out that they are taking your advice and going in a completely different direction, one that is better for all involved. So that is your forecast, Sagittarius. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And of course, if you'd like to get a session, you can always follow the links below, or go to integrativemysticism.com.